Hello, how are you? We're beginning work with emphasis from Unit 12, right? And remember from Unit 12, grammar and vocabulary, right? We're on page 196. Remember that emphasis is in the singular, S-I-S, S-E-S in the plural, emphases, the pronunciation, right? And how do we create emphasis in English? Well, or in any language for that matter, by playing around the structures, right? We're moving around the constituents of a sentence. Now, in the entry test, you will find several interesting activities. We'll comment on them in class, but here you will find many of the examples that will reappear later, right? Now, as regards the basics, how do we provide emphasis? Well, one of the ways is by using intonation, right? And I wanted to look up here this word foregrounding, because what we do is by making any change, we foreground certain elements of a sentence, right? One of them might be stress, or it might be something else, right? Now, in this case, examples are examples that you know. I said I liked the blue one. Sorry, I wanted to give you the expression that something is in the foreground, right, or in the background. So as I was saying, you know some of these, right? I like the blue ones, or for goodness sake, what is it this time? How we managed this with stress. But let's have a look at this expression. There's a good boy, right? And how we use stress here. In this case, when we say this phrase, there's a good boy, right? The stress is at the beginning, right? This there is not for it's not existential, right? It doesn't say there is a boy, but it is an emphatic way of saying what a good boy you are, right? So there's a good boy, and there's a stress. Of course, we can provide emphasis with the words. I mean, with a choice of language, right? Possibly with adjectives and adverbs that strengthen or provide more emphasis to what we want to say. And also there are other words we can add, like the auxiliary, right? It's true, I did do it, right? In American English, we have this use of to, by the way. Not this cat. Thank you. I don't want the word of the day today. I didn't do it. You did too, right? I did not, did to, did not, did to, right? So this is a way of emphasizing. And also it's a kind of substitution, right? A case of substitution. Then you have some other expressions. You have the reflexive pronouns. And in that sense, I want to say, remember that when you say he managed it himself, she managed it herself, right? When they need to match, right? You need to use the same pronoun. Okay, why is it there's a good boy? Okay, and then we're going to go to fronting later on, right? Another way of providing emphasis is by repeating some words. You have several examples here. I would like to add year in, year out, day in, day out, right? Let's see, year in, year. I doubt it's going to be like that, but let's check. So every single year, right? Oh, year in, year out, right? Every year, right? That's another emphatic way. And of course, there are several ways of providing emphasis. One of them in section 1, page 198, is by fronting. What is fronting? Moving something to the front of the sentence, right? By foregrounding, actually, because by making a change like that, by moving a constituent that normally appears at the end of the sentence and putting it at the beginning, you draw attention, right? The word fronting does not appear in the dictionary, right? Usually with prepositions, into the water dived the swimmers, right? But also with other words like never have I seen, what we're going to do is something else, right? You can do this with many, and we'll see many examples in the activities, right? And I know you're acquainted with this. I would like to focus on the watch out box on this page that says it's unusual to end a sentence with be as a result of fronting. So lying in the field were three men, right? That's more normal. And also, it tells us that when we front a propositional phrase of place or movement, we normally invert subject and verb, and we say, out of the water jumped the penguins. But we can also say, into the window he burst. So in through the window he burst, right? This may change. Now, as regards fronting, another example is to front a noun clause, right? Where he went, I have no idea. That he ran a marathon. So all these examples are, to my mind, are very easy. So we move on to the activities. In the activities, pay attention to this false friend, which is formidable, right? And let's go to section 2, in which we find introductory there and it. And in this case, we do find the existential there, right? There are casualties. There is an explosion. There is something. Now, as regards it as introductory it, remember we call this anticipatory in British English and anticipatory in American English, right? Now, here we have different uses of it, right? In the first group, it says it's dark, it was unbelievable what they done, it smells of fish. Now, it was unbelievable what they had done. Is doesn't seem to belong here, right? So I wouldn't fit it here. I would say that this goes with it anticipating a clause, right? But when you say it's dark and it smells, this is the typical unspecified it, right? And then further ahead, it's raining, it's 6 o'clock, and I am going to add it's a long way to downtown. So time it, weather it, space it, and then it plus a clause. And these are the uses of anticipatory it. It's difficult to understand. It's fun working with you. It turned out that he was lying. All uses of the anticipatory it. How do we know? You need to switch the clauses, not the clauses, sorry. Actually, to put the clause in the position of it, right? To understand is difficult. Working with you is fun. That he was lying turned out it doesn't really work that well, right? But it is correct. And all of these are cases of anticipatory, and these are the three types of structures it anticipates. Remember, it does not anticipate a noun phrase, so it's not okay to say it's amazing the way she does it, it's strange the way she works, it's wonderful the new concert hall, right? These are perceived as informal, right? But I would say rather wrong. Um, okay, I am going to skip point. I don't know, wait, before I move on. Um, Remember that it can anticipate not just a that clause, but a what clause, as in, it's amazing what you learn from hanging around bars, or other types of clauses. It's surprising how many unhappy marriages there are, or it's exciting when a baby starts to walk, right? Or to talk, whatever. Um, okay, the next point is a very interesting one, which is certain verbs followed by it. There's a limited number of verbs, right? I find it strange that they haven't told us. I would count it as an honor to be included, and people consider it inappropriate to wear jeans to such an event. These are very good examples of typical uses of find, count, and consider followed by it, right? Um, oops. So we have the examples here. I find it best to be honest, but uh, this is the one I wanted. You may find it hard to accept your illness. Do women find it more difficult to ask for a rise, right? So a very good example of these verbs, this verb followed by it, right? Remember that there's also another well, let's go back to the list they offer here, which I believe is confusing, right? Because it is true that consider, count, and find maybe followed by it. Feel, yes, she felt it, her duty to do something. Think, maybe I think it, unkind, that you should. But the others are very oddly followed, very rarely followed by it. I cannot find examples, right? So do not consider them. And let's see if you find them in the activities, right? But then, apart from the verb find, I wanted to discuss prefer in its very unusual pattern. I would prefer it if. I would prefer it if you didn't tell anyone, right? And remember, the other verb that has the same pattern is appreciate. I would appreciate it if you uh, paid in cash. PAAD, by the way. Okay, then some phrases with it that are really good. It's no use crying over spilled milk, right? So what's done is done. And then this other one, I think you may not know, it just dawned on me what he meant. So I like this idea of realizing as beginning to see the light, right, as a process. Um, very much like in Spanish, caer en la cuenta de algo, right? All right, several activities here and several idiomatic expressions that we will be considering in class, right? So let's go to section 3 and uses of what for fronting, right? What he did was to, what I'm going to do is to, so nothing unusual here, right? I think the only one that may be unusual is what Clive is a pain in the neck, or what you are is a wonderful student. Um, okay, I doubt these are problematic, right? But I wanted to consider the cleft sentences, right, that we're going to see here. Cleft. And you know, cleft means divided into two, right? So you have a cleft in your chin, for example. You also have a cleft palate divided into two. And there's also a cleft sentence, right? And this comes from the verb to cleave, which is to separate in two, right? She cleaved his skull in two with an axe. Oh dear. Okay. And he also cleaved to something, by the way, right? Her clung close to the roof, but to cleave to a belief or idea. That's an interesting idiomatic or choice, right? And the phrase be caught in a cleft stick, which is in a difficult situation. Now, what do we want about the cleft sentence here in this unit? Usually we see the cleft sentence as it was the dog that barked, or as it's in this table, it was a jug that she threw out the window. It was a window that she threw the jug out of. So usually with a noun, but this is not always the case. In number 5, we have examples like it was learning to speak French that he found most enjoyable. It was from Heather. It was in London. It was because. It was only when he phoned. It wasn't until Tuesday. So the type of structures that you can use after the verb to be can vary, right? It's not solely a noun. So I believe that is all. Then we'll check the activities in class. And I'm already salivating. Section 4 is about nominalization, which is so interesting. So that is all. I hope you have a good time with this unit. We'll comment on it in class. Thank you very much.